All right, everybody. Okay, hold on. What's going on here? Can you guys hear me? I hope you guys can hear me. Hold on. Let me add the stuff. Let me add the thing. Should be good. Please work. Okay, there we go. There we go. Don't know why this is happening yet again. Um, hold on. The fuck? Okay. How do I? Oh yeah. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't fuck it up too bad. God damn it. All right. God damn it. Uh. Okay. All right. We keep it at this. That's how we're doing it. Okay. Yeah. I guess we just do this. All right. This is the way it's gonna be. This stream. This is the way it's gonna be. You guys can't tell any difference, I imagine. Uh, there we go. All right. Cornick, thanks for the 5. Oh wait, 1 point? No, 1 point. No 1 point. I think we're good time wise. Time wise, I think we're all good. I don't think I'm late. I think I'm pretty on time. I'm actually. Oh shoot. Is it 1 point? You guys actually might be right here. Hold on. Let me share it. Okay. So we're gonna wait on. We're gonna find this out together, basically, whether or not I'm on time. So I've been streaming for 2:20. Okay. Oh, my chair's. It's my chair cam there. Okay, we'll fix that in a second. We're gonna wait till it gets till. Oh no, hold on. Cause it's shit. Am I late? Cause it's it's 8:03 now. Oh shit. Yeah, I might be late. No. No, I'm not late. Cause it's 3. It's if it swaps to 4 that I'm late, right? So let's see. 3. And there we go. Yeah, so I'm fine. Because that means I've been streaming since 8 p.m. All right, we're good. 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Yeah, we're good. All works out. That was a tight one, though. That's a tight one. All right. Put this back. Okay. All right. Yeah, I did cut it really close, but that's just the way I like to do it. It's just the way it is. All right. Now that's all good. Yeah, so I don't know that much about the first look situation. Let's get the stream lights up to 50 real quick. Sorry, I was answering a super. So Cornick says a child is their parent's weak spot. Dragon and Tritoma give up Luffy for his safety. Tritoma dies of love sickness from their separation. But couldn't they have housed Luffy at Amazon Lily or some shit? Because I feel like that's a pretty damn safe place for it to be. But maybe it's possible, I just don't want to go down the whole Tritoma situation. Peep the new opening? Nah. Okay, people want me to react to the new opening. I can react to the new opening, I guess. New opening's so good. I think I saw one brief little still of it, which was like, I think a Venus Jura little image. What's going on? Oh wait, let me just. What is this? Here we go. All right. Yeah. Wait, do people not care about the season 2 first look? I've not watched the trailer. The song is mid. Yeah, the song matters a lot. You can have all the best animators in the world, but if the song's not that good, it doesn't really matter, you know? Um, yeah, I can do the new opening. I can do the new opening. I mean, what's the first look? Like, how important is this first? We're gonna look at the first look, obviously, but my question is like, is it? Do we see people moving? Because I think I just see the same stills over and over again. I think I just see the same stills. I don't think we see exactly the do we see them in motion? I guess is what I'm asking. Do we see them in motion? It's really good for a first look, says Brandon King. Good to see you again, Brandon King. Okay, all right. Yeah, then I'm down. I mean, we're gonna watch it regard. It's a trailer. Oh, it's basically a trailer. It's like a teaser trailer. Okay, cool. I've heard that we see Smoker. I've heard that we see, obviously we see Robin because we see her face. I see her face being plastered everywhere. Andre Apetre, thanks for the 5. Appreciate it. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up. Oh shit. Season 3 is confirmed too. Yeah, because the how to say it, the time gap is just really big. The time gap, just TV show seasons time gaps are just too stupidly big at this point in time. I know people have it's been explained to me multiple times, and I've read up like extensive breakdowns as to why the seasons take much longer nowadays. And as I understand it, a lot of it has to do with the way streaming things are okayed for the next batch of episodes versus how things used to be. But it's just dumb. Like even just now, so my girlfriend and I really like the TV show Wednesday. So she got me into watching that last year, and I was lucky because then I only had to wait a year. But if you watch Wednesday when it first came out, you're waiting like years and years for the next season to come out. And all the child actors, not like Jenna Ortega, like the actors who were actually children the first time around, they are now terrible. They're grown-up teenagers. It doesn't make any sense that it's only been a year or summer. It's stupid. And then on top of that, with Wednesday, they're releasing 4 episodes and then another 4 episodes. And it's like, this is an 8-episode season. What do you guys don't have enough episodes to split up. This is not even enough episodes to like, it's barely enough episodes to call it a single season of TV in the first place, let alone a single season that you took 3 years to put out, and then you're trying to split it up into a batch of 4 and 4. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it's got nothing to do with the popularity either. That's the crazy thing to me, because I genuinely don't get it, because like House of the Dragon, I know was a popular show when it came out. And then season 1 came out, I think like a year later or something, season 2 came out. And then it's going to be like 5-6 years or some shit before the next season comes out. Not from now, but from when the season first fully released, right? Or like 3 years or something stupid. So it's got nothing to do with the popularity. One Piece, most popular show on Netflix when it came out. And then that's like, I guess the writer's strike, I get that that's a big part of it. But I feel like even if you subtract the writer's strike, it still seems like a long-ass time to wait. And it's just bizarre because I remember when Game of Thrones was coming out, it would be like a season every single year. They never missed a beat, you know? I still don't get, like, how is Breaking Bad able to produce quality seasons every single year? It feels so strange now that people have to wait that long. The execs have terminal brain rot? No, but it doesn't... I know that we can shit on that easily, but it feels like there's something bigger, systematic. Like, I get that it must be the executives at the end of the day, but my question is, like, why? What? It's been explained to me too. I don't remember the exact reasoning, but like something about the way that streaming is set up makes it fundamentally different how the production process goes, and like when it goes from like, okay, next season is okay to the whole thing being to actually starting. Leaf Dix's VFX and stunts? No, no, because other TV shows had that. Like this is, it's not like this is the first era that TV shows have VFX and stunts. Like Game of Thrones was still producing every single year, and every single year it would have. Like I don't think that the latest House of the Dragon season had that much more VFX and stunts than like the final couple seasons of Game of Thrones. Jolly D. Joester says because episodes were usually done last minute. Yeah, I do remember reading something like they would still like back when it was like weekly releases, it would be like literally new scripts would be coming in as the season is coming out, things were being shot. Like the whole thing was like a more active ongoing process, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I don't know why. Is it just because things are streaming now? Like, aren't there some streaming shows that are weekly releases? So wouldn't that still be able to work? Hiring bigger actors for main characters can make it difficult as well. Yeah, because back then it's just like, well, we just got this actor whose only job is basically doing our TV show. Yeah, and it's fewer episodes. That's the crazy thing too. Because even if you're like, well, all the budget is higher for now VFX and all of that stuff, which I don't fully buy being the case, because it's also easier now than ever to do computer generated images and everything like that. But even if we want to say that, it's also fewer episodes. So something is evening out somewhere, right? Matt leaving the show permanently is cause of concern, says ShareBear421. Yeah, does anyone know details as to what happened there? Because as far as I remember, like, he, uh, he was we got, I was able to talk to him in a couple reveries, and like, generally speaking, he just seemed like somebody who was the right person to understand the series, be at the helm of that whole thing. So I don't know. He got burnt out, if I recall. Yeah, I guess that's fair because you're thrust into basically like working on the most popular Netflix like TV show out there. My own, and I can't speak to this or anything like that. I don't know, but I do want because like at least with the One Piece live action, isn't a lot of it like a lot of the script is already just pulled from the manga, right? Like you're rewriting it obviously for a TV Western format and everything, but the story and all of the character beats and everything that's already written out. So I feel like it would be, I don't know. If you're burnt out, you're burnt out. I'm hoping that the because it's all drawn from the manga, I'm hoping that the whoever's hands it's in now, it's still going to be somewhat close. But I did like a lot of what Matt did with like, I just think he translated everything really really well for just a Western audience format. Like how he chose to spin the characters, the type of dialogue, it still fit One Piece, but the jokes and like the way dialogue flowed and how people talked and everything like that, I really like that. So I don't know. It's not creative issues. Werb with a good answer. Shows used to make money based off of getting people to tune in each week and see the ads. Incentive to go for quantity. Now they make money by generating new subscriptions. No incentive for quantity. That makes sense. That makes sense. But that only explains to me like why seasons are shorter. Why then does it take longer for shows to be greenlit and for the next season to come out each time? Beep, thanks for the two. Taiwan, Greece, Israel. Yeah. Okay, the new showrunner already worked on season 1 and 2. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, and he was still involved with season 2. Season 3 onward is the worry. Okay, that makes sense. Um, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Try to wonder how many TV shows Netflix, HBO, etc. have in their to-do list. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the plan for the One Piece live action story wise is, like, because I just assumed initially that season 2 they would finish with, like, they would do the Alabasta arc, but now that they're really going for, like, now it's way more spread out than I expected. Like, it's covering fewer chapters than season 1 did, you know? It's covering a lot fewer chapters. So, I mean, I assume that next season we get Alabasta. I feel like maybe next season covers Alabasta and Skypiea. But that doesn't make sense, right? Like, I feel like you can do a good story. I feel like you can do Alabasta fine with like half a season, right? 3 episodes, 4 episodes, or something. I'm just like, where are they gonna cut things then? Like, where does season 3 end if not with Alabasta? Because then does it end with a cliffhanger with them in Skypiea or something? I feel like season 4, if you want to keep the momentum of the story really going, I feel like season 4 you really got to do Water 7 and Islabi and just make that the whole season. I think that would make season 4 like the best season ever. And then maybe you like cut Thriller Bark in a way. I think Thriller Bark getting cut. Thriller Bark is just a very cuttable arc because I think Thriller Bark might be okay. I feel like if they're trying, there's two angles. Like, if they're trying to cover as much of the story as possible, then I feel like cutting Skypiea, not cutting Skypiea itself because traveling there is very important, but I feel like tuning the story down to its bare bones could be very, very important. And then I think cutting Thriller Bark could be very good if they find a way to involve Kuma. Because the main thing from Thriller Bark that is most impactful story-wise is the Kuma scene. That's not specific to Thriller Bark. That can be placed in other parts of the story. The whole conflict with Gecko Moria is just generally not that important. It is important in the sense that it gives us hints for future events, right? Like Swordsman Ryuma, Shisui, hinting at ancient giants and things like it hints at a lot of stuff for the future, but those hints can be woven into other storylines. I just don't think. I think doing a whole season out of Alabasta, I just don't think that's right. I think that's like pretty crazy. Like an entire season out of Alabasta, I think that's just a lot. Because that's basically turning Alabasta into like the whole. It would be the length of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, or close to. And I don't think Alabasta needs that, personally. I don't even know how they adapt the Enies Lobby set to live action TV. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 5. Anime live action is in its early comics era. Think of 1966 Batman. Still cosplay looking, but can evolve into believable worlds like superhero films. Yeah, I guess maybe that's the case. But I also think that I definitely think that's possibly the case. But I think that I've talked about this at length before, but the way that superhero movies have become much more palatable, like they became very palatable for the modern audience, is because the Marvel route was to try to take the piss, as the British say, try to take the piss out of superheroes concepts a lot. So like they play it for real 50%, but they also like make fun of superhero stuff and like the fact that they're all dressed up and in costumes and doing saying superhero stuff a lot too. So they try to do half foot in, half foot out, and then the tricky thing is that like superheroes are already a lot more grounded than anime are, because like superheroes are ultimately just like, what if we're in our real world, but like some people are like super strong, you know, or can shoot lasers out of their eyes. Like it's grounded with like an additional element of like a very easy to grasp like baby level of like magic system, which is like that guy, his name's Static Shock, and he's got electric powers, but everything else is basically the same in this universe, right? Whereas anime, it's just like, you step into Jujutsu Kaisen, it's like, okay, so there's like cursed spirits and cursed spirit sorcerers, and there's like cursed spirit energy, and it works like this and that, and there's domains and domain expansions, and like yada, 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 and like, these are cursed weapons and cursed items, and then there's like these eras and stuff like that, and there's fucking Shikigami, and like it's very very heavy on like it's shit, and it's hard to play that straight on live action TV. The one reason that One Piece really works is because One Piece already is very goofy and cartoony, like openly goofy and cartoony, and like considers itself silly in many ways. Like they're traveling through just East Blue and stuff, and like they meet a dude whose body is stuck in a chest, and it's just like, that's so crazy, this is hilarious, or whatever. Like One Piece itself, even Luffy's abilities, it's like, this is stupid, silly, funny. Buggy and Luffy's interactions, all of that. Like One Piece doesn't, like, it always also tries to make fun of itself a lot too. You know, so that's why it almost slots in easier into what Western audiences are already used to. And like a lot of the One Piece sets and like characters and stuff felt very, you know, kind of like silly and amateurish in ways at points, but at the same time the world and story doesn't take itself too seriously, so it's like you can ride with it, you know. I think it's way harder to adapt something like One Piece than something like Bleach, where it is more serious, you know, and like you are trying to do it like you know, like the concepts like Banka and all that stuff, like you are trying to make it all really cool, badass stuff like that, you know. It's my personal opinion right now. Season 4 being just Skypiea would be rough. Yeah, so the one thing I'd say is that like my thought is that with television generally, you're trying to especially nowadays television, you are trying to build past and like top what you were doing before, generally with TV. That's why I'm really surprised though that season 2 they're not trying to get to Alabasta. So that's like a bold move. They're trying to take their time, because season 2 is not gonna, it's going to be build up to Baroque Works. So I think that might be in a way, the way that it's topping season 1. So it's at least building up to Baroque Works, but it's not nearly as, you know, like it's not going to get to that grand finale, right? But as long as they pay it off with Alabasta, that all works. Skypiea is very different, because Skypiea, when it came out, like Skypiea wasn't as powerful as an arc as Alabasta, which, you know, has like so many chapters of build up to it and everything like that. It wasn't as Straw Hat focused. Like a lot of people, like there's a reason that there's Skypiea skippers, right? Nobody's fucking skipping Alabasta, but there's a reason there's Skypiea skippers and stuff like that. We understand in retrospect why a lot of the stuff was important, but even then, a lot of the stuff that we understand was important about Skypiea was actually more so lore stuff, you know? There's never anybody who's been like, oh, you know what? Actually, Caunus is like a top 10 One Piece character of all time now that we respect Skypiea more. Like, that's not really the case. Like, you're not, like, the actual story itself of the Skypiea arc, I don't think, like, when it first came out or when people first experienced it, people generally don't consider it to be one of One Piece's, like, most riveting stories. And the story remains that way even in retrospect. I think the thing that stands out to everybody is the Nolan Kalgara flashback, but that's its own thing, right? Skypiea is appreciated a lot more nowadays because of its because of its lore and foreshadowing. There's not people who are like, you know what, NL top 3 villain ever now, you know? I think people still think NL is a cool villain, because of for what he was at the time, but that's still for what he was at the time. So bottom line being like, I think doing the full season of build up to then the Alabasta storyline in season 3, you get to the next season, season 4, and if it's all Skypiea, I don't think that that's as powerful for a lot of viewers, especially because the best thing that the One Piece live action is doing right now is it's setting up the world very fast and getting viewers who know nothing about One Piece into the One Piece world building very fast. And I expect season 2 will keep doing that. Skypiea, arguably the biggest hurdle for Skypiea isn't even the plot, the internal story, etc. It's that One Piece's greatest strength, that many would argue, that made it stand out for a long time, was its world building, right? That's One Piece's greatest strength. Skypiea sacrifices that strength by dropping you in a totally different world. All of the stuff that is being set up, like right before Skypiea, we're learning about the Blackbeard pirates, we're meeting all these Shichibukai, we're finding out the Gorosei, the world government, right? Shanks and Whitebeard are gonna meet. Like, we just got introduced to Whitebeard. We just found out about the mission that Ace is on, right? We're seeing Ace and Buggy. Like, we're seeing so much of the world suddenly spring to life, and we're leaving that for Skypiea. So Skypiea kind of takes everything that One Piece has been building up and just sets it to the side for a while. Now, the secret was that Skypiea actually was doing wonders for One Piece's world building, but in a way that wouldn't be relevant for like 800 chapters, right? Like literally like 800 something chapters. So that was like the secret that we didn't know at the time, but you can't know that at that point in time, right? All you know when you're in Skypiea is that we're learning about sky bullshit that has nothing to do with any of the cool shit that we were finally learning about downstairs. So that's the tricky thing with Skypiea. Like, it truly, truly feels like a side quest while we're up there, and Oda does absolutely nothing to make us understand that some of the things that we're learning about right here, like the sun god concept and stuff like that, that it's relevant to later on in the story. He does nothing. That's really cool, because that shows a lot of confidence in himself as a mangaka. I know that One Piece was always a very popular manga in Japan, like in terms of its sales and rankings, and I think it was towards the top of Shonen Jump right off the bat. But that takes a lot of confidence to just be like, now I'm really hitting my groove, right? Like with the Alabasta storyline, with the world building setup and everything. I'm going to take us away from it for 80 chapters just to tell a side story that's going to foreshadow a lot of stuff for the future of the story. And then we'll get back to the main stuff. Like, that takes a lot of balls. Like, 80 chapters is nearly the length of, like, Chainsaw Man's first part, you know? What was I thinking? Yeah, anyway, so but in a live action format, I don't know how that would work. Because it's just, with the live action so far, it's trying to keep, like, it's building its world so much faster, right? Like, Kobe's an ongoing character, Garp ongoing character, right? Like, imagine Smoker will be ongoing characters. Like, it's setting up so much of a roster of characters like a TV show would do. So to just leave all that behind for a season, that's not something that I can imagine being that successful in a live action format. So I wonder how they'll work around it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Skypiea storyline is shortened or something like that. But it is important that they go there. Like, I think Skypiea is very important that they go there. I think the plot that unfolds while they're there is not as important. I think it's important that they go there. Some of the things that are established there are established. The ideas are communicated. I think a lot of the plot that's there is not as important as, like, the Alabasta plot, for example. Alabasta was when One Piece broke Dragon Ball records in Japan? Really? I thought One Piece wouldn't be breaking those sort of records for, like, some time, right? Anyway. Dare Bopper, thanks for the 5. Was the Giants' culture of piracy because of a deal with Emu? World government seemed to have fewer problems in the era of Giants. 750 years with no One Piece found. That's a good point. I don't know. I don't think it was... Maybe it was a deal with Emu. I don't know. Because, like, Emu's talking shit. He's like, because of Harold's mistake that day. That would be crazy. And we still don't know what goes on in Elbaf's Heaven Realm. That's a really interesting point. SMX Wing, thanks for the 10. No way a show with heavy CGI is going to cut the one arc that's all in the dark. They'll cut it down to one episode or two. Yeah, I don't think I don't mean that they'll cut Thriller Bark straight up. I mean like they might keep it in the way that they kept like it might be similar in length to some of the season 1 episodes, like season 1 arcs, where they're at an island for 1 to 2 episodes and then they're moving on to the next island. They'll cut it down to one episode or two. I think I do because I do think Thriller Bark can serve as a good like warning for what's coming in the new world. Season 3 Alabasta, Season 4 Jaya slash Skypiea slash Water 7, Season 5 Ennis Lobby slash Thriller Bark slash Saboti, Season 6 Kuja Marine Ford. I personally think I literally I think if you want a sense of climax for seasons, then I personally think because I don't think all of man, I want to ask Randy this almost. I don't think you can devote all of season 3 to Alabasta. Like 8 episodes for again, that's close to the length of like all 3 Lord of the Rings movies. That's really fucking long. That's a really really like Alabasta doesn't even have that many like and the Lord of the Rings movies had like a shit ton of characters and stuff. Like Alabasta is ultimately like it's a pretty damn tight storyline to tell. I feel like you can do Alabasta in a lot less time than that, like way less time than that. Especially because so much setup will be done in season 2. I just don't know. Like 8 episodes for Alabasta. I almost feel like you do conclude Alabasta with 4 episodes. I just think truncating the plot, like I don't think doing a full season for Skypiea. I think just I think if there's a couple plots that are just not that important in the grand scheme of things, it's Skypiea, Thriller Bark, and Skypiea. It's important for the ideas and themes and like stuff established there, but you can cut so much of that storyline down. Like gun to your head, a lot of readers right now would not be able to name like Shondarins outside of Wiper. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys would like right now would not be able to name Shondarins outside of Wiper. I can because I fucking cover the series a shit ton. But you guys probably don't remember like Laki. Obviously, Isa. I think that's the next easiest pick. But Kamakiri, what's that guy? The guy that Zoro fought with the guns and stuff. Like a lot of those guys are just not that important in the grand scheme of things. Kanis and her father, not at Pagaya, not exactly like iconic characters. Like, I just think in general, a lot of Skypiea's actual plot isn't that important. Kalgara is fucking cheating. Kalgara is cheating. The fact that you guys had to jump to Kalgara first and foremost when we all already know that that's like the one shining bright light in the Skypiea flashback, Nolan Kalgara, which I already talked about earlier. You guys, the fact that you guys jumped to Kalgara first basically says everything I need to know, which is that the Skypiea flashback, the plot itself, I think a lot of people would have trouble recounting the exact plot of Skypiea as it went. Whereas most people, like other storylines, people can recount what happened in Water 7 and Ennis Lobby very, very easily. You can recount what happened between like Saboti, Impel Down, Marine Ford very easily, right? A lot of Skypiea, I think a lot of the characters, maybe not the most memorable, etc. Braham, yeah. Wiper is fantastic. Pagai's actually goated for One Piece characters never die. I personally think Alabasta, I don't see any reason why Alabasta couldn't be covered well in 4 episodes. 4 episodes is like two full movies. That's like really good. Like 2 full movies. That's like Avengers Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame. Like that's good. That's like 2 big ass movies, right? Like I don't know why. I feel like 4 episodes is fine. 4 episodes and then probably half an episode for wind down, like post climax stuff, and then they leave. Maybe episode five concludes with them kind of like getting to like episode Then they leave probably like outside world building shit. Episode of Jaya, and then can kind of conclude with them getting to Skypiea. I think season 4 You can bring him back down from Skypiea, and then the rest of the season, like 7 episodes, Water 7 Enies Lobby. If you tell Water 7 Enies Lobby by season 4 of One Piece, it will be like, it will have such a gigantic following. Like, it will blow the fuck up. Water 7 Enies Lobby across season 4 of One Piece it's gonna blow the series up. It'll be so fucking huge. Yeah, like it'll just be huge after that. And then even season 5, they could get to Marineford if they scrap Thriller Bark mostly. Like, you can get to Marineford in season 5. And I think that would be really, really fucking good. That'd be really, really strong. Okay, anyway. Kind Best says, I think people underestimate how long our episodes are. Yeah, like, our episodes are really, really fucking long. Like, an hour of TV is it is genuinely a very long time. Simple Boy says, Infinity and Endgame each were almost 3 hours long. But there were also much bigger stories than Alabasta. Okay, so fine. Not those two then, but it's still 2 movies. It's still 2 movies together. That's like a long, that's a long, long ass time. Okay, that's a really fucking long story. And I'm saying, like, probably give another half episode. So let's say 4.5 episodes, because you want the post-climax stuff to be, you know, its own thing, right? Piano Tensei says, bro, you're skipping everything. Because it's just not doable to cover everything in an adaptation. That's just not a thing. So, like, you look at the things that will keep making the TV show money, keep viewers, like, hyped for the next thing, and then you go from there. Like, Game of Thrones also cut a lot of shit. Season 1 cut a lot of shit. Like, that's just the way it's got to be. I am still very shocked that Season 2 doesn't try to get to Alabasta by the end of it, but they probably really want to do it right. And I imagine Season 2 is still going to up things by, like, building the world more. There is still hype stuff that happens. And just building a lot of momentum to the Alabasta climax for Season 4. I think that could be a really good cliffhanger to leave people on. Okay, continuing on. Mavahed Sadegi, thanks for the 2. Funny, One Piece wasn't diverse too. They race swap Vivi. I do. Okay, so part of me is just like, okay, cool. So they got Indian characters for Alabasta, I guess. Part of me is just like, this is weird because I know people defend are like, I'm Indian and I'm always for like, I'm always down to see more Indian characters or whatever, but I don't think anybody fucking thought that Alabasta was based on India. Like, I know that people are now going back and pulling up, like, examples of cities and stuff and being like, see, like, specifically the capital was based off of Indian cities and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there are references. Like, Oda's not literally just copying and pasting Egypt into One Piece. So I think that's kind of a dumb argument because it's like, well, it's not literally exactly Egypt, therefore it's also like, yeah, he's doing a little bit of mix and matching and shit, but it's also just, it's like, we all know that fucking, like, it's just, it fucking felt like an Arab nation. Egypt seemed like the main thing that's being, like, I never fucking think of it. Nobody thinks of India as a desert country. It's just not a desert country. It has areas of desert, but that's like saying because the United States has like a desert in Arizona or something like that, that the United States is like a desert country. So I personally think it's fucking stupid to like be like, well, it's not like Alabasta wasn't just inspired by Egypt. It also had some Indian inspiration to, like, you're just lying to yourself because you know that at the end of the day, it is. We all fucking thought that Alabasta is way more Egypt. Like, it just seemed like Oda's version of Egypt. And he didn't make it exactly Egypt, so just, it's his version of Egypt. I personally feel, Kindbest says it's fiction. I get that. I get that it's fiction. But I personally feel like it's just would feel more true to what we're trying to what the story initially was if we had it in more Egyptian style setting. And my only thought is that I feel like the reason that it's not like, and this is me saying this as an Indian guy, I feel like the reason that they went with an Indian slant over Egyptian was not because Alabasta is not clearly more based on, was not because Alabasta is more based on India. I think it's because there is generally in Netflix shows a very concerted effort to try and cast people of darker skin tones when possible, and India just lends itself to that better than like, yeah, you're gonna find like it's India just lends itself to that better. So I'm sure that there was some of that in the pitch as to why it's going to be Indian actors rather than, let's say, Egyptian, Arab actors and everything. Like, I think if we just call a spade, that is, like, this is me saying that. Like, I know how these things work in fucking Netflix executive studios and stuff. It's like, yeah, Oda, we know that it's, you based Alabasta off of this shit, but, like, there's a bit of India in there, isn't it, right? How would you feel if it's India? Oda's not gonna fucking, like, give that much of a shit about it. So it's not a big deal at the end of the day. This is the One Piece live action. It's different from the anime, but I also think we don't need to at the same time do revisionist history and pretend that we're all reading Alabasta and we're all like, oh, this is fucking India. It really looks like India. No, nobody was fucking thinking that. That's just like, it's literally just like, I just don't like when people can't be honest with the way things are. It's just like, yeah, clearly this was not, the Alabasta wasn't originally like it didn't fucking scream India when you're fucking reading the storyline there. It seemed more like Egypt or Arabic and stuff like that, right? But now for, you know, our live action audience, we want to have a wider range of skin tones, so we're gonna play up the Indian side, like the Indian references in Alabasta more, and we're gonna have Indian actors and stuff like that for that. And it's like, okay, that's it. Just translation from that to that. I think we can just leave it at that. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. I don't think it matters that much. But I do think it's dumb that people are getting into so many fights about it online. Because, like, people are screaming that it has to be Arabic, Egyptian, whatever, because that's what it was inspired from in the manga. And it's just like, look, it's fucking Netflix. Like, what the fuck do you think they're going to do? They're gonna do their Netflix thing. That's just the way it's going to be. And then I think it's also dumb the other side with people trying to pretend that, like, no, like, it's just straight attempting to gaslight. It's like, no, Alabasta, that was always like an Indian name. It was like half Indian, half Arab. Like, I couldn't even fucking tell. I couldn't tell the difference. It was such a clear 50-50 mix of both types of culture. Who could even tell if it was more based on India or Egypt? It was so fucking hard to tell. It's like, no, man, nobody was fucking thinking India when they're reading Alabasta at any single point in time. That's just fucking not true. So I think that's what frustrates me, which is just like the people who are making a huge deal out of the Indian casting and like acting like it's the end of the world. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm Indian, but like, it's like, look, it's Netflix. They're gonna make some changes and they're gonna stretch things a little bit because they want darker skinned people in there. It's just the way it is. Like, it's the way the world works nowadays. It's just the way it is, right? So you can accept that. It's probably gonna happen more as the series goes. You fucking know Aokiji's going to be black. That's already happening, right? Like, we know that, like, we know certain things are going to happen. So let's just get on board with it because it's going to be the way that Netflix is going to do it from here on. So that's one side. And then the other side pretending like, oh, Alabasta, obviously always such a clear mix of, like, Indian culture and Egyptian culture and Arabic culture. It was just such a mishmash. No one could even tell which one was really supposed to be the predominant culture. It was just, like, this whole make-believe. It's like, no, Oda just fucking pulled Egypt and threw some other mixed bullshit in there from surrounding areas, you know, and but it's mainly Egypt. You're reading Alabasta. It's like, oh, cool, the Strats are in a desert nation. Feels like Egypt. That's it. Feels like Egypt. Feels kind of like very Arab nation inspired. That's just what it feels like. The food, clothing, culture, all of that, right? Like the location, right? India is not a fucking desert nation. Nobody fucking thinks of India as a desert nation. That's just a straight up lie to pretend that you were reading Alabasta and being like, the vast desert sands that they have to traverse, just like in India. We don't have to traverse desert sands in India. In some parts of it we do, but that's like saying, like, so many fucking countries have a desert. We're not a fucking desert country. All right. Simple Boy says, Morge, I'm playing devil's advocate. Alabasta Castle looked like Taj Mahal. No, there's clear, like, I think everybody can agree that there's like sprinklings of India stuff thrown in there. It's the same way that like just because Oda pulls some inspiration, like Dressrosa is very Spanish inspired, that doesn't mean that like every aspect of it is fucking Spanish. Like it's just what seems like the predominant thing, right? One Piece is a fantasy world, right? There's sprinklings of lots of different things thrown in there. But I'm saying that even if you're playing devil's advocate, like that's totally fine. Like I know that there's bits of Indian architecture, things like that, also thrown into Alabasta, but the vibe of the nation as a whole was never close to India. I think the simple way to put it is if you just go to India and then you read Alabasta, there would be not a single fucking second that you think that like, oh, Alabasta, the general vibe and feel of this nation is kind of like India. It's just not. It's fucking not. I think the only way to say that is if you've just never been to India. Now, I've never been to Egypt, but I have been to Jordan, at the very least. I've been to the Middle East. My family's been to Egypt and stuff like generally the vibe. You can see photos, things like that. I've also been to Morocco. Alabasta is not fucking close to India. It's fucking not. It's just, I think it's borderline like just ignorant to argue that like Alabasta feels anything like India outside of a few visual references. Okay, continuing on. Beep, thanks for the 5. Please consider a video going over people's reactions at earlier points of the manga, like when you got into it. I will steal the info. Going over people's reactions slash okay, so I can only speak on like my experience. So a lot of it was like what were my reactions and things like that. And then a little bit of going around. Because, like, I would watch YouTube videos and stuff at that point in time. I would go on my anime list. I would go on Naruto forums for power scaling stuff. So there was no single consistent forum pre-time skip that I would go to for One Piece discussion. Because I was still a kid. Post-time skip, I think around the Dressrosa time, I'd say end of Punk Hazard through Dressrosa, that's when I was definitely getting into, like, talking One Piece on Reddit a lot. And then obviously once Whole Cake was partway through, that's when I was like doing YouTube and everything. And so then I was pretty in tune with the One Piece community. So I can't tell you even though I was a weekly reader at the time of Thriller Bark, I can't tell you exactly what everybody was thinking during Thriller Bark. Marineford, that was when I was reading a lot more YouTube comments and stuff like that. So I had more of a vibe then. Marineford is, I think, Marineford and post Marineford is when I think I really, really was, I'd say, biggest thing post Marineford. From end of Marineford onwards, I was like on lots of forums and stuff, reading up stuff. Anyway. Where are we at? Marco Saint, thanks a lot. They won't skip any arc. They will add some B story to keep the outside world building ongoing during Skypiea. Also, Jaya plus Skypiea can be covered in like 3 to 4 episodes or even 1 to 2 movies between seasons if they want to do that. I don't think movies are on the horizon just because, like, I think every TV show's like talks about how, oh, it'll be X seasons and movie and stuff like that. But in actuality, even the biggest ones don't end up like that. Like if Game of Thrones didn't end up in a movie, I just don't think it's happening. I know Breaking Bad had a movie, but that was after the whole thing ended, and I don't think anybody watched that. So, yeah, I think I feel like it's very hard for TV shows to do movies because generally for those movies, it's reliant on people already having seen the TV shows. And ultimately, like, a TV show would have to be so universally popular that like everybody's fucking watching it that it's worth it to try and put it in theaters and hope that people go there and watch it. Some outside B story to keep the world building going during Skypiea. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I'm not saying they skip Skypiea. I agree with you that Giant Skypiea can be covered in like 3 to 4 episodes. I agree with that. I'm saying that I don't think like a full season for Skypiea or anything like that makes sense. Because if you look at length of time, like Jaya starts around chapter, I want to say like 217 to something. Yeah, I want to say around 217 or something like that, 218. I think that's when Jaya starts. So like the whole Skypiea plot line, and they get back from Skypiea around chapter 303. So the whole Skypiea plot line is the same length as season 1 of One Piece. Close to. You get it? You get what I'm saying? Like, it's close to the same length as East Blue. I mean, season 1, they didn't even get to Loketown, right? So, like, 90-ish chapters. Skypiea would basically be like, yeah, close to 90. Jaya and Skypiea together, close to 90 chapters. So I'm saying I don't think they'll allocate the same amount of time. I think they'll chop a lot of the plot. I think the important things, because the plot of Jaya is only relevant to the plot of Skypiea in the sense of, like, Nolan Kolgara shit. Closing that loop. In terms of, like, actual plot connection from A to B, there's pretty much nothing, right? You get to Skypiea, it's a brand new plot. So my thought is that I think when they get to Skypiea, I think Jaya, they cut almost nothing. Because Jaya's good. It's tight. It covers, like, everything. Everything that happens in Jaya is very important. And it's great storytelling. Like, there's not a single wasted chapter, it feels like, in Jaya. In Skypiea, I think they're just going to cut the plot of everything that happens there down. Because the Skypiea plot is pretty slow, pretty meandering, and it's not very emotionally powerful for the Straw Hats. So, it's basically just like, because the Straw Hats are very much tourists that arc. They get up there, they're fascinated by the sky. Half the crew gets taken over to the sky. Around then, we find out that there's an evil god. The other half of the crew comes to meet the first half of the crew. They fight a priest in the forest. Then we're learning more about the Chandrins. They have their bonfire night. The Chandrins are out doing the rebellion. And then it turns into, like, a long series of fights. But the fights are all kind of out of the blue because the Straw Hats have not had that much time to build up, like, a sense of purpose and meaning there. They're just there looking for treasure, and they don't know anything about what's going on. So the Straw Hats are just tossed into random fights, essentially. The storyline's more so important for the Chandrins, and then they're meeting Enel, and then Enel's taking out the Straw Hats. Then we get Luffy versus Enel, then we get the long flashback, then we get back to, like, Enel destroying everything, yada yada. Like, the plot, I think, can be shrunk down a lot. Cut down a lot of the focus on the... Because Skypiea has a lot of side characters, but I don't think a lot of them make a big impact in the fan base outside of, like, Wiper. And I'm a big Wiper fan, so I don't want them to cut Wiper in that sense. But he's, like, the main character that stands out from Skypiea. And then, like, Conus, Gonfall, Pagaya, those aren't, like, the most popular characters. And then after that, it's a bunch of Chandrins nobody gives a shit about. All right. Continuing on. Let's get Streamlabs up to 100 real quick. Starbright, thanks for the 10. Hey, Morch, during your last stream, you mentioned defending Sanji's placement with his own achievements in comparison to Zoro, but you always say that we can just assume really greater than Gaban. Why? They could be even. Because Oda established... Okay. Maybe they're even, but I go by simplicity, right? So if Oda says Gold Roger, Silver Rayleigh, Copper Gaban, and I've, like, I don't know, the reading comprehension of a 5-year-old, I feel like that might be the author just giving us the rankings. I don't know if those are random. I think that it's not like Oda was randomly like, oh, I'll call this guy Gold Roger instead of Silver Roger. I'll call this guy... Like, why do you... Like, I'm just going to let you sit with that question real quick. Like, why do you think the rankings gold, silver, and copper exist? Do you think it's just random? Like, do you think, like, Oda was just like, I'm going to call this guy Silver Roger, and then this guy's going to be Gold Gaban, and then this guy, I don't know, Copper Rayleigh or something like... Do you think it's random that we just happen to get gold, silver, copper? And then I've got another question to you about King, Queen, and Jack. Depending on how you answer the gold, silver, copper thing. Because I don't really know why this would be... I mean, there's other things, obviously, Oda's done throughout the story. Like, if we take the naming convention... Let's take the naming convention out of it, right? Take the naming convention out of it. If we take the naming convention out of it, then all the evidence is basically, like, Rayleigh was the right hand of the Pirate King, right? He's the vice captain. Generally speaking, in crews, it's just the captain's the strongest, vice captain's second strong. Like, that's not a mind-blowing thing in One Piece. That's just kind of always the way it is. Captain, official vice captain. It's not even like a Zoro situation where you can argue, well, technically Zoro's not the vice captain or whatever. Rayleigh was the vice captain. first mate, right hand, Dark King, right? Like everything about Rayleigh basically establishes hierarchy that puts him above Gabon. And then on top of that, Rayleigh is just more renowned. Like Rayleigh's legend is significantly bigger than Gabon's because I don't even know how to describe how big Rayleigh's legend is. Let's put it this way: Rayleigh is a more legendary figure, objectively speaking, in the world of One Piece than any of the Yonko. Any of the Yonko alive in their primes today. Rayleigh is a bigger legend than all of them. Rayleigh is arguably the most notorious figure after Roger and Dragon. That's just a fact because all of the East Blue characters, all of the East Blue Straw Hats, said that they knew Rayleigh's name. Every single one of them knew who Rayleigh was. And they're like, you always hear about him in the stories, in all stories, etc. Like, Rayleigh is that dude. Like, in terms of legendary status, like, let me put it this way. To the casual, like, we are all in the know, right? Like, we follow the One Piece story, whatever. But to the casual One Piece person sitting there in East Blue, drinking tea, knows nothing about the world of pirates, if you ask that person who's the strongest pirate ever, they would probably say Gold Roger. And if you said, who's the next greatest pirate of all time, they'd probably fucking say Silver's Rayleigh. Shanks, never heard of him. Kaido, who? Don't fucking know these characters. All right? Like, keep that in mind. Like, Rayleigh is basically like that. Like, do you get what I'm saying? And Gabon is just nowhere near that level of fame. So, like, whatever Gabon has done, because they had to be filled in, the Strats had to be filled in as to who Gabon was, right? They don't know his name, which means that, like, just objectively speaking, over the course of the Roger Pirates tenure, Roger obviously had the greatest achievements. Rayleigh had the second greatest achievements, right? And then Gabon was third. Okay? And that's not to say that Gabon is, like, he might still be close in strength to Rayleigh. I imagine he was very close in strength to Rayleigh. But I'm just saying that if you need to put one above the other, right? The simplest things are, like, in terms of direct hierarchy, vice captain, first mate, right hand, right? Right hand is generally considered to be, that's like the first go-to, right? Right hand, right wing, that's considered to be a little bit more prominent. That's kind of what's listed more. Like left hand is something that you don't even hear that often. Like, oh, that's the left hand of the king or something, right? So in terms of just hierarchy, name, etc., yada yada, Rayleigh is put up there. Like, he's objectively above Gabon. Number two, in terms of like general feats, right? So that tells us that known feats, known achievements, etc., Rayleigh is like way higher than Gabon because like apparently everybody knows Rayleigh. And then finally, it's just like the simple ass shit like gold, silver, copper. Like Oda named it in the way that wasn't fucking random ass shit. What, like, I just don't even know how you could read those names and be like confused as to what the hierarchy is. You know? It's the same reason that we know King, Queen, and Jack, like, even before King and Queen were introduced, right? We saw King and Queen introduced and we saw them talking down to Jack, so it was just, like, obvious that they're above him. But before King and Queen were introduced, there was, like, notebooks that were released of Oda's studio that showed, like, King, Queen, Jack all listed. And everybody, like, this was, like, hundreds of chapters before. Like, this was during Zoe and Whole Cake and stuff like that. And everybody was like, oh shit, Jack's third commander. We all knew he was third commander well before King and Queen themselves were introduced. We all knew he was the third commander. Not because Oda ever said it. Not because, like, we knew the other bounties or anything like that. We just knew King, Queen, Jack. Okay, this guy's third in the ranking, right? I don't think there's... I feel like it would take a special type of bias and like desire for agenda to argue that it's vaguely ambiguous as to like who might be stronger between Rayleigh and Gabon. I think you could make the argument that maybe like I just don't know what the argument would be. Like, even in terms of like how other characters talk about them, right? Like, it's cool that Sommers was scared by Gabon and everything like that, but like Rayleigh just has more overall hype. Because Garp was even talking about how, like, Garp put Rayleigh right up there along this, at the same level as Whitebeard. Garp was like, the Marines can't take on two legends at the same time. He, like, literally viewed Rayleigh in the same light as Whitebeard. I'm not saying Garp thinks they're equal or anything, but he gives him that same status in terms of, like, that's a legend. We can't do anything to him. Like, it's the same as Whitebeard. It would be like marshaling forces to take on Rayleigh is similar, right? Blackbeard in his prime today still shits himself seeing Rayleigh. Like, there's just so much more going for Rayleigh than Gabon at the end of the day. I think, like, that's another case where, like, Gabon's hype, to me, seems to come from the fact that he's grouped with Roger and Rayleigh. Like, that's how Oda established that Gabon is a big deal. Like, did you know that it wasn't just Roger and Rayleigh that were these top fighters? Like, there was a third guy as well. So that's where the Gabon hype comes in. It's the fact that he's in the trio with those other guys. I don't think that Gabon and Rayleigh's gap would be big, though. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say, like, it's obvious who would be, like, one's the right-hand man, then the other's the left-hand man, right? One's the vice captain, one's not. One's got way more feats and achievements, the other doesn't. One Oda has characters hype a lot more. The other character does get hype, but not quite at the same degree. So, I mean, maybe they're even. Like, maybe there's a chance they're even, but the natural assumption would just be, like, based on everything the story's telling us, is that they're probably not even. Rayleigh's probably a bit ahead. But I don't think the gap would be that big, personally. Anime Only Benji, thanks for the 2. Hey, Morge, and hey to me watching this 1 year from now. Thanks for coming through, Anime Only Benji. I appreciate it. Let's get the stream list up to 10 real quick. Anime Only Benji, thanks for the 10. Shanks knows Blackbeard's a growing dire threat and even warned others, Whitebeard and possibly Gorsei. Why doesn't he just kill Blackbeard now while he is still weak enough to be scared off by Rayleigh? Is he lazy? Because, okay, there's two things. So one, there's a video coming out tomorrow that's a very interesting video that might add another layer of explanation to this. But two, that's the entire concept of Shanks. It's very interesting. Shanks, Oda wrote as the character that will... How do I explain this? The entire idea behind the character is that he will never, ever raise a sword or fight unless it's out of defense. Unless he's protecting something. Either protecting himself or, more importantly, protecting others. That's the whole concept. Never, ever... Like, Oda has certain characters represent, like, extreme values. Like, for example, we were talking about Sanji, right? So, like, Sanji represents, like, ultimate adherence to a code of honor, chivalry, stuff like that. Like, he will never bend in that sense. Whitebeard represents a father that's just completely loving, accepting, unconditional, stuff like that. Shanks represents the idea that, like, the strong should never wield their strength to pick fights. You should only use your strength to defend and protect. That's why, like, that's established from the very first scene, the bar scene, that, like, Shanks is never just gonna up and, like, start a fight for no reason. He was only gonna really fight if he needs to protect someone, his friends, right? And the bar scene's a microcosm of that, but as you go through the story, let's go through every single time that Shanks has actually showed up to try and fight, right? Every single time in the story. Consistently, he has never ever started a fight himself. He has only ever stepped in to defend, right? So first thing was on Whitebeard's ship. Whitebeard was the one that Shanks wanted to just talk. Whitebeard was the one that turned the discussion aggressive, and that's when Shanks was like, okay, I have to raise my sword because I need to defend myself, right? Marineford, world's biggest war happening, all of that stuff. Shanks shows up and basically stops the whole thing, right? And he says, we're all going to stop here. He says that if people still want to fight, we will fight, but our goal here is just to put a stop to things. He even invites Blackbeard. He's like, if you want to fight, I'm here for it, right? Blackbeard says no, and he leaves. And he knows that Shanks isn't going to pursue him, right? You keep going, it's like Wano, right? Again, or like even before Marineford, Kaido, right? Kaido's going after Whitebeard and stuff. Shanks shows up to stop Kaido, right? Shanks doesn't go out seeking battles with the other Yonko or anything like that, but he is going to step in if he needs to stop or defend something before it happens, right? So the Kaido incident, then Marineford, then you get the post-time skip. Green Bull. Shanks could have just taken out a Marine Admiral right there. Like, they had him, you know? Shanks had him, the whole Red Ear Pirates were there or whatever, but Shanks is just there to stop it. Like, he's like, stop it, I'm sending you back, we're not doing anything further. Keep going and, like, fucking Kid. If you go back and read the Kid situation, Shanks literally says before he leaves the bar, I'm not going to let this place turn into a battleground. I don't want any fighting here or anything like that. And Kid's here to, like, kill Shanks or whatever. Shanks goes to the shore. He's literally like, you guys can drop your stuff and leave. I don't want to fight. Like, that's his whole thing. Doesn't want to fight. He's not going to start fights. It's only when he sees a vision of Kid destroying his ships and like his crew and his fleet and everything that he's like, okay, now I got to step in and do something. That's like always it's all like that is the whole concept of the character. It's established in chapter 1, and that's just what the character is meant to represent. Never, like literally never using your strength to instigate. That's why Shanks, it's not like a infallible type of thing. Like oftentimes these high adherences to a certain sort of like Ace's I'll never back down, right? Like, or Sanji's like I'll never hit a woman. Like these things do get you into trouble at certain points, but it just represents like Whitebeard's complete acceptance of his children got him fucking stabbed in the back, right? Like these things do get you fucked over in some ways, but that's also what makes these characters who they are, right? It's a lot of double-edged swords in that like they live in such a grand way and as such a grand depiction of a certain ideal, but what makes them so strong and so great is also what fucks them over in a certain sense. So it's interesting. But the whole idea is that like the entire story we've seen a million times that Shanks could have done something and it would have saved a problem later on. Like if he'd taken out Higuma in the bar, then the whole situation with Luffy wouldn't have happened. Shanks would have kept his arm, all of that stuff, right? If he'd just taken out Blackbeard at Marineford, like he could have, like Blackbeard was scared of him, then it would have saved a lot of trouble down the line, right? He had his whole crew. Maybe he could have defeated Kaido, because Kaido supposedly only had King, right? Maybe the red-haired pirates could have just taken out Kaido and King right there. But that's not the way that the Shanks is going to do things, right? Green Bull, who knows what trouble Green Bull is going to cause in the future? Shanks didn't do anything right there, right? Kid, Shanks and them let Kid go the first time around, right? And then Kid came back. Shanks obviously did seemingly put an end to Kid right there because Kid basically pushed things too far and was going to kill everybody. But the consistent idea is that even if Shanks thinks someone is a problem, he's only going to go so far as to protect and defend what needs to be defended. Be that himself, like self-defense, like if Whitebeard's going to start swinging at me, like I'm going to defend myself or whatever. But he just ultimately wants to put a stop to things, Because like if you go back to Marineford, like the Marines were already like really running thin, right? I'm not saying that Mihawk was leaving, they were having to deal with the Blackbeard pirates and all of these guys. The entire Whitebeard pirates were still fighting and everything like that. If Shanks and the Red-haired pirates really wanted to step in and like cause some more trouble to the Marines, they would have been able to do so right then. Like the last thing the Marines wanted right then was like another Yonko showing up. But Shanks just wanted to stop the fight. That's the whole idea. So like even though Shanks knows that Blackbeard is a problem, the one thing that we know that Shanks does not do is go out and instigate a situation. It's only once something like someone needs to put their foot down and put a stop to something. And that's not going to work forever because at a certain point, Blackbeard will become too strong and Shanks will probably go down to him. But that's also, if he were to go out and just be like, you know what, we're just doing a raid on Hachinosu, we're going to clean house, we're going to kill everybody there, it would ruin the concept of the character and what the character is supposed to represent. Oh, the Mihawk Shanks stuff? So I'm not saying anything specifically about the Mihawk Shanks stuff because we don't know how those fights went down. For the record, it did seem like, in chapter 90, whatever, when Mihawk shows up, like, again, it's a case where Shanks isn't going to challenge Mihawk to a duel. He's asking Mihawk, like, okay, you showed up at my island with my people. Do you want another duel, right? But we also don't know what Shanks was like in his youth. Has he always been like, maybe he was more like hot-blooded, fiery, or whatever in his youth? We know he used to get into scuffles with Buggy, right? Everything that I'm talking about Shanks and the Shanks that we see today is the traits that we've seen of him since chapter 1 of the story. Not necessarily from during the times that he used to have his duels with Mihawk and stuff like that. We don't know what he was like when he was younger. All right. Let me catch up here. Plank Vanilla, thanks for the 5. Morge, can you share how you got diagnosed with ADHD? When do you get your suspicions? I have not been officially diagnosed with ADHD. I know I have it, though, because... So, how do I say this? When I was... I know I have it, I just don't think I have it to, like, a very high degree. And it affects me for certain things. So that's the big thing, which is that, like... growing up, I wasn't like a hyperactive kid. That was never a thing. And like, no, I'm sure a lot of you probably can't even imagine me as like a hyperactive kid. But that's because I never was. Like, I never had hyperactivity problems. Um, if stuff is boring, I do have a tendency to zone out or whatever. But like, I could turn it on for school at points that were needed, obviously. And then the big thing is just in terms of like um, tasks that were not enjoyable to me, I would often forget, leave by the wayside. This was like a problem growing up at home or whatever. Like little chores, little tasks, etc. I would just straight up not remember them. Just wouldn't be a thing. And growing up, like I never thought that I had ADHD because I knew kids that were actually diagnosed with ADHD and stuff like that in school, and like they're fucking hyper as fuck and like annoying as shit. So it never crossed my mind that I had ADHD. I had little things, like little um, I could tell you guys about. I don't feel comfortable telling you guys about it, but I had little things that were like, um, probably not exactly the most neurotypical, I guess I could say, but it was never like stuff that um, felt typical to me of ADHD stuff. But that's because I never had a full grasp of what ADHD actually means. So now I think as I got older, I realized that I did have focus problems when it came to like sitting down and doing certain tasks. So I would procrastinate a shit ton, like way more than is normal for most people. Um, and the method of like the reasons for procrastination and stuff like that did line up quite a bit. But I was still like, okay, I probably don't have it bad or whatever. Since living with my girlfriend for the last year almost now, I think because she has mild ADHD, and she's taken prescription and stuff for it. But it's really not that bad because like you would never tell knowing her. That's the thing. It's like it presents differently. So she has ADHD for some specific things. That'll be like forgetting items and things like that, or maybe sometimes a little scatterbrained when it comes to chores. But like generally, she's a very put together, very tight, organized, mentally organized, etc. person. But she has ADHD in some areas, and so she was officially diagnosed. But you would never be able to tell. I realized over time that through her sort of pointing things out and her observing things, etc., that I definitely do have a lot of ADHD tendencies, and that is probably the biggest reason for my procrastination on certain things. Again, like a lot of the problem is that I've also worked through a lot of that just through my own like discipline over life or whatever. So whereas before I would procrastinate like crazy for things, now I've reached a point where like even if I'm like putting things off, if I have a certain set of tasks that need to be done by the end of the day, or like certain work that needs to be done by the end of the day, I'm always going to power through and do it. It's just going to be later in the day than needed. I became a kind of a night owl because of those reasons. Anyway, but like it's because as she pointed things out and then I got a broader understanding of what ADHD entails, I definitely experience the same thing that people with ADHD experience when I'm putting things off or letting certain tasks fall to the wayside. So yeah, with that in mind, like I do need to do the official diagnosis. The session that I had scheduled didn't go through, and it looks like I'm gonna have to go in person to a thing. But that is something I do want to do somewhat soon. All right, continuing on. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 10. I think anime in general feels more real than comics because its power systems have material logic, like Year 2 Luffy speeding up blood flow, unlike Superman who's just powerful without a clear mechanism. I think that's because comics are basically like a shit ton of different writers putting stuff together, and they all have there's all different, and they all have to exist in the same universe. That's the real problem. So like Krypton, like Superman's not just like randomly strong. I forget. I think the initial explanation when he was first written way back in like Action Comics or whatever was that like he comes from a planet with higher gravity, I believe was the explanation, and then over time it turned into the sun instead being the explanation. So there's an explanation for why like Superman has and Kryptonians have their powers, right? So there is like a clear mechanism for Superman, which is just that Kryptonians, they grow power with the red sun. But there's so many other systems in like DC Comics or something. It's like, well, magic's like Wonder Woman's shit. Well, that comes from the gods. It's like, well, how does that work? It's like, well, that's just magic or whatever. It's like, okay, but then that'll be a different system than like, let's say, Constantine's like whole realm and everything like that. Like the stuff, the way stuff works there. You look at like Marvel comics, especially like the way Thor's Norse power magic stuff works is like different than like stuff like the Phoenix Force and stuff like that versus um, like Doctor Strange's stuff and like it's all a bunch of like the big problem I think is that ultimately a lot of this stuff was initially conceived as not part of like an interconnected universe. So like you're creating heroes that just have powers, right? Like Spider-Man has this power or whatever. But then it's like, okay, but we're creating so many heroes and we want them all to be in the same universe. So then it's just like it'll be just like if you it's the equivalent of if One Piece just was determined partway through to also coexist in the same world as like Naruto and the same world as Bleach and the same world as like Jujutsu Kaisen. So you got like a bunch of different heroes with a bunch of different power scales, different vibes, different magic systems, etc. And they can exist in their own storylines and bubbles and everything like that. But then sometimes there's just big crossovers, and then eventually things start to meld more and more, and then like the crossover is the norm. Um, yeah, I always feel like there's a lot of superheroes that would just work better if they're not forced to be part in like a shared universe with a lot of other characters that have totally different, that bring totally different things to the table. But it is what it is, you know. Marco's saying, thanks a lot. Regarding Vivi's casting, the casting calls for Vivi and Cobra asked for actors of Middle Eastern or Indian origin. Ultimately, I think they found Vivi's actor really compelling and then decided to make the royal family Indian. That's totally possible. I would also not be surprised if, like, no matter what they wanted, when they're thinking Indian or Middle Eastern, no matter what, they were hoping for somebody darker skinned, because Netflix is just always going to want to have that nice spectrum of different, ethnicities, etc., representation as much as that's just the way that Netflix is, right? It's the way Hollywood is in general, but especially Netflix, we just know that that's the way that they like to operate. So I imagine they always had, whether it was going to be Middle Eastern or Indian, I imagine they always had like a darker skinned person in mind, which isn't, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's whatever. I just think that we don't need to pretend that Alabasta was always something that we all viewed Alabasta as something that we definitely didn't view it as, if that makes sense. Anyway, Evil Friend, thanks for the 2. You see the Strahd flag got banned in Indonesia? I think that's kind of crazy. I think it's crazy that people brought the Strahd flag to like actual like real world shit, because I think I'm just gonna say I think that's cringe, and then I think it's stupid that it was taken so seriously that it actually got banned. I think that it's just, I don't know. Salvador, thanks to 5. One Piece live action should ditch wigs, let actors have their hair. If they want Luffy being the sun god to make any sense, they better not shorten Skypiea. But they totally can shorten Skypiea. You don't need most of the Skypiea. That's the thing. Most of the Skypiea plot has fucking nothing to do with the sun god. The sun god is mentioned twice in all of Skypiea. Literally twice. And one of those times and it's in the same chapter. It's mentioned in one chapter in Skypiea. It's just one chapter. It's just one chapter in a flashback that the sun god is mentioned. Like, there's nothing. That's the thing. Like, the whole Nika sun god stuff was, when it was first coming out, it was very out of the blue. Reason being, it's really not that big of a part of the story prior to that. Like, people have to go back and be like, wait a second. This is similar to the pose that Luffy was dancing in way back when. Oh, that's interesting. A pose for one panel. And then it's like, oh, the sun god. Wait, the sun god's also been mentioned in one chapter back in Skypiea. You can cut, like, what does cutting Wiper have to do with, like, ruining the Nika? Like, I'm not saying cut Wiper. I love Wiper. But I'm saying, like, you can cut so much of Skypiea. You could fucking cut NL. And it has nothing to do, it doesn't affect the Nika reveal or the Sun God reveal. If anything, if they're redoing a new version of Skypiea, they should do it with more of a setup focus on future events, because Oda did foreshadow things in Skypiea, but in the lightest manner possible. Like, he mentioned Sun God in one chapter, along with a shit ton of other gods. So Sun God was mentioned once, and Luffy having a pose that Luffy doing a pose that nobody ever thought anything of until Nika was revealed. That needs to be emphasized a little bit more. Because it's not like that's like was Luffy's iconic pose before Nika was revealed. It's like Nika was revealed, and then it was like, wait, going deep in our memory books, okay, let's all scan the story. It seems familiar. Okay, Luffy did this once. It's not like that was Luffy's iconic pose or anything like that. It became Luffy's iconic pose retroactively once it's like, okay, now he's just going to be doing that a lot, you know? As for ditching the wigs, I do think it's odd because, like, they cast a redhead for Nami. So that was fine. And then I think Zora's wig is necessary. I don't think ditching all the wigs is right, but I think you don't have to have a wig just to have a wig. I guess that's my thought. Basim El Madawi, thanks for the 5. The legends of the One Piece world would not have the following they do if they turn from their ideals, so it helps them as much as it harms them. Yeah, I agree. Great point. Joel CT, thanks for the 2. I'm not sure what your message was. Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. Will Blackbeard kill Aokiji like Rocks killed an admiral? I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts about the Rocks Blackbeard situation, which will be coming out in tomorrow's video, so watch out for that. I hope that Blackbeard's story, the tricky thing with Aokiji is that, like, he could die as a tragic figure that redeems himself in a way, because I think he is the most morally complex character in all of One Piece. Like, I think the whole journey that he's had, because again, I'd say, like, One Piece generally doesn't do characters that are actually morally gray. It usually likes to do a character that everybody thinks is bad but is secretly good, and they just have a bad reputation, or a character that everybody thinks is good but is secretly bad. That's usually how One Piece likes to play with morality. So, like, it does black and white more so because it fits with the themes of the story, which is like, you have to understand that perception is not reality, and that a lot of what we view as right and wrong is based on narratives that are spun. And so, like, who is actually in the right and who is actually in the wrong can often be flipped on its head and reversed based on what people say. But for One Piece to have this messaging, there does need to actually be, like, good guy, bad guy, which is like, it needs to be established that, like, just because people say that this person did the wrong thing and this person did the right thing, that doesn't mean that's actual truth. Like, in actuality, who you think is the good guy and who's actually the bad guy is flipped. But that means that One Piece has to play it straight with, like, good guys are actually really good guys. They're often just slandered and maligned, but underneath that, they're objectively good characters. Same with the reverse being true of bad guy characters. So, One Piece basically stays away from morally gray as much as possible, because that's the way that it can make its story and messaging work. But the Marines are the interesting area down the middle, especially the Marines that are slowly, like, learning to branch away from their brainwashing and think for themselves. Because, like, characters like Aokiji and potentially Kizaru, their sin has essentially been, like, going along with what the narrative that they're fed tells them is the good and right thing to do, without actually thinking for themselves and seeing the truth of what is the right or wrong thing to do. And so characters like Aokiji are on the journey to discover that, despite Aokiji having already done a lot of really bad shit in the past. Now he's learning to think for himself. So that's why the Marines can be really interesting as the most, like, the strongest potential for Oda to write morally great characters, and, like, Aokiji is that dude. I like the fact that he's in Vegapunk's big speech, like one of the 12 characters, because it makes me hope that he has a bigger role to play. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ultimately dies to Blackbeard, but not before, like, redeeming himself and helping the right cause in some way. Can Blackbeard even beat Aokiji 1v1? I mean, my thought process is that, like, I got Aokiji over Blackbeard, but I know a lot of people disagree with that. I just think that Blackbeard's not at his, like, I think once Blackbeard gets to his final, I think a lot of people rate Blackbeard based on what they believe he is supposed to be by this point in the story, but not based on what he actually shows, if that makes sense. So, like, people are prepping for, like, the mentality that Blackbeard is soon going to become, like, the final villain, or at least the penultimate villain. So they view him through that lens. And they also say stuff like, well, he's a Yonko, stuff like that, but it's like, that doesn't mean that much. Like, Buggy's a Yonko. Like, at this, like, we know we know how Blackbeard became Yonko. He became Yonko by defeating Marco and the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates, right? So Blackbeard himself isn't necessarily at that level, and we've already seen him fight. We've seen he's basically like, he will go, like, Trafalgar Law will give him some difficulty, even when Blackbeard's jumping in with half his crew, you know? I personally think that based on everything that we've seen, even just random little shit like surprise attacks from Seraphim and stuff, I don't think there's anything that we've seen that would make me put Blackbeard like above Aokiji. I imagine it'd be very close, like a toss-up, but I do think that a lot of how people rate Blackbeard is like where they believe he should be rather than what has actually been displayed of the character so far. So I might be wrong. I don't know. All right. Jolly D. Joester says, thing is we don't know how strong Blackbeard actually is. Yeah, I think that's like the mentality readers have with him, which is like I think people assume that he's really hiding something. I think he's hiding something, but that'll be talked about in tomorrow's video. But I think that wouldn't necessarily mean that Blackbeard himself is stronger than Aokiji. I think you just got to watch the video and see. Bropter says Blackbeard is the best fruit, so he wins. I'm going to be honest. I could imagine Aokiji just straight up beating Blackbeard in boxing. I think that's possible. I think it's been implied, like, Aokiji seems to have future sight and stuff based on, like, how his interaction with Whitebeard went on Marineford. And Oda did some stuff to hint that the Admirals have future sight at Marineford. Advanced forms of Haki, obviously Aokiji, boxing with Garp and everything like that. Like, I don't know. Blackbeard did beat Law. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you struggle with Law to that degree, it wasn't like an extreme diff or high diff fight or whatever, but Blackbeard also had like huge advantages. Like, he's the one that ambushed Law. Like, he got the drop on Law. He ambushed Law. Like, that encounter went exactly how Blackbeard wanted, with like half of his officers, like Yonko crew officers, attacking Law, while Law is fucking like Sachi and Penguin on his side, basically doing jack shit. And it's still like Law still gave him difficulty. Like, he still like injured him. Blackbeard still said it wasn't easy and everything like that. Like, I don't think you're taking on a dude who went 10 days straight with a Kainu. Like, I don't think Blackbeard's beating a dude who went 10 days straight with a Kainu after that showing with Law, personally. Blackbeard can take more of a beating? No, because it's the opposite. Blackbeard takes more damage than the average person. All right. It's getting to that time that it's time for the reaction. Hold on. Let me see one thing real quick. It's getting to the time for the reaction. I guess I'll also do the opening, One Piece opening reaction too. Oh, shit. Did I freeze the camera? Oh, god damn it. So here's what's happening. Anytime that the camera cord gets slightly touched, the whole thing stops working. Like, just the cord. That's why this happens. It's just the camera cord has to get slightly touched, and then it suddenly just stops working. I'm sure there's a solution for that, but at the moment I've just treated it as like, okay, the camera cord just deciding to be really finicky. Luckily, we've got it lined up in a way that you guys can't tell the difference. All right. Before we get into it, I know that this whole stream you guys have been staring and staring and staring. You guys have been staring and staring and staring at the shirt that I'm wearing. I know you guys have been looking at it. So I'm going to do you guys a favor. And I'm going to give you guys the link for this. So here we go. This shirt comes in a variety of colors. Comes in a large variety of colors. Here, let me show you guys. You guys might have seen, if you tuned in on Friday's stream, you probably saw me wearing it in black. I'm sporting the orange look right now. I'm going to need to add my camera here as well. Give me a second. Yeah. So, these shirt sales, which are basically it's all of Luffy's gear transformations. The shirt sales are only from um, the next 2 weeks. So it's for the next 2 weeks. So if you want your shirt, we also have stickers if you guys want to grab yourself some stickers. But we've got these shirts available. We're partnering with Gomu Drop on Instagram. And yeah, they're the artists who produce these shirts. And yeah, we got them in all these colors. Black, orange, obviously as I'm wearing right now, and white. I like all the colors. I mean, black's just going to be my favorite because I like dressing in black. And yeah, make sure you get these. Make sure you grab your shirts because they're only going to be available for 2 weeks. Again, like that's not like other times that we can kind of... Well, I don't know. It would depend because we're partnering with other people on this. So the availability is going to be very limited. We might be able to bring them back in September. But as far as we know, they're only producing it for the next 2 weeks. So this is a very tight sale. So yeah, get these while you guys can. And yeah, the link is pinned at the top of the comments. Jordan Vance says, yes, more what I've always wanted. I knew that this is exactly what the people wanted. All 4 gears of Luffy. There's also the Chopper shirt. I think we got to get that on there. We got to get the Chopper shirt on there. Hold on. Here, let me bring this up. All right, there we go. All right. Jolly D. Joestar says I'd get the stickers for my car. Yeah, the stickers are available too. All right, let's get into the other thing, the reaction. Hold on. So if I do this, god damn it, I got to do this here too. All right, here we go. Camera's just missing everywhere. All right, there we go. It's just going to be slight... Wait, no. Hold on. I can just move this up. There we go. Yeah. I have become very good at manipulating this stuff, I think. I think I've become very good at it. Manipulating the... Who remembers how hard it used to be for me to just do anything basic? Any basic changes to any tech setup during the live streams. It used to be an absolute nightmare. Now, it's just like... It's easy. Although the camera still doesn't work. But that's a camera issue, not... that's a totally different issue, so we don't talk about that. All right, there we go. All right. Yeah, we're going to get into the reaction in a second here. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. We're going to start the reaction when the stream likes are at 150. And I'm going to throw in a reaction for the One Piece opening as well. Season 2... First look. I am excited. I do really love the One Piece live action, which is funny because I used to be so skeptical of it. If you watch my reactions to the first teasers of the live action, the first trailers, I said I'm pretty sure that I thought it was going to be cringe. I think that was my general statement towards it. And then when it came out, I had so much fun watching it. I think I mentioned to you guys before, I've watched the whole thing. I think I've watched the whole thing 3.5 times now. I guess like 4-ish, like close to 4 times. Because I watched it once when it came out right away to review it, right? So I watched the whole thing. And I had so much fun. I had so much fun reviewing it. I feel like it was not... I wish I could have just enjoyed watching it. Because I had to take a lot of notes while I was doing it. Because I wanted to put out, like, the big One Piece live action review after it came out, right? But yeah, so I had a lot of notes while watching it. But I still really enjoyed it. And then watched it again with friends. Watched it again with family. Watched most of it with my girlfriend. So close to 4 times now. And I enjoy it literally every time. So yeah, One Piece live action. Very excited. Mods napping? Wait, what are the spoil... Guys, cut up. Where are the... We need some emergency mods. Ender Anami, can you please moderate some stuff? Thanks. Jolly D. Joestar says, didn't Morge mod someone who helped him with tech issues? Yeah, Sean Easton, but he can't always be there. Let's get the stream. We need 16 more stream likes. Let's see if we can get it there. Who's spoiling in chat? Yeah, Ender, thanks for getting on it. All right. We should have some more mods just because shit. I might have to do a double check to make sure that like we're getting everybody that wins the chapter predictions mod status. Actually, let me see something real quick about that. All right. Tom saying I was in a drive-through. Perfectly reasonable. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. I hear there's another break after this chapter. It's not the worst thing because Oda's dropping such crazy good chapters. There's so much to talk about. It feels like, it's natural. This feels 2 weeks. But at the same time, as a content creator, you always want, there to be more chapters out. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. We got 8 more likes. We're starting the reaction. Here, I'll even pull the thing up. So we got it right here. All right. I forgot we reacted to the Chopper first look. That was interesting. I might watch that again real quick. I'm not going to watch it again. But that was interesting because it was just like... With the Chopper first look, I think I really, really liked the visuals. I was impressed by the visuals. Like, they were better than what I expected. I just disliked the voice. That was the tricky part. 4 more. Chopper looks so weird. I thought that the way that he... It's gonna look, it's a fucking talking reindeer that's a human hybrid. Like, it's gonna look, that wears a hat. It's gonna look weird no matter what. I felt like the way that he talked, like the way he looked, the way that he moved, etc., I thought was pretty... I thought it was good. Like, I honestly thought it was good. It felt good to me, felt natural. I just didn't like the voice. I didn't like the voice acting and the type of dialogue that it went for with him. And they even ruined his gag of like, oh, that's not going to make me happy. I think the way they did it was not quite good. But I'll say right now, everything that I say about the One Piece live action, take with a grain of salt, because when season 1 was coming out, I was critical of the teasers. I was critical of the trailer. I was very generally like cynical about most of what was going on and coming out. And I was really critical of Iñaki Godoy. I was like, this guy seems terrible for Luffy. Seems too cringe. And then I was wrong about everything because I thought Iñaki Godoy was the best part of the first season. I thought that the first season was so much fun to watch. So yeah, like, just because I might not be warned, just because I might not love certain things about the first look, and I didn't love Chopper's first look, at least voice-wise, I might get used to it when it actually comes out. So, first opinions don't matter that much. Let's get into it. It's interesting that this has more views than Chopper's first look, which came out so long ago. Interesting. Okay, here we go. Wait. Let me make sure that desktop audio muted. Yeah, we should be all good. All right, let's get into it. All right, everybody. Let's watch this shit. Thanks for getting the stream likes up to 150. Oh, man, I'm excited. I just want to see the red line again. One more time. I like the feel of the red line. I think they did a good job here. I like seeing the boat sailing. No, we're going to go through this slowly. I didn't realize that there'd be this much stuff. Okay. Loketown opera. Oh, they got execution banners and everything. I like the feel of Loketown. This feels good. It's got rickshaw rides and, like, the hats are... I don't know. You know what's interesting? Loketown's our first big city in One Piece. Not big city, but it's our first city that we visit. City or like town and everything. Everything up till then has been villages. So I actually didn't think about that from the scale of like how sets and towns and stuff need to be in the One Piece world. Loketown's our first like by East Blue standards, our first little metropolis. That's interesting. No, no, I'm gonna go through this very slow. I'm sorry. What the fuck is this? Is this like Little Garden? Where they? Who is this? Usopp running? I don't even know what's happening. Yeah, I guess this is Little Garden. Why are the cuts so quick? Who is this? Is this fucking Zoro? Yeah, that's Zoro. I mean, that should be an easy guess, but it's just the hat and the quick shot. Oh, this is cool. Whiskey Peak. All right. I like this. I'm trying to imagine through the perspective of like a first time One Piece viewer, like what they feel coming to these islands and seeing these sets. It's also Whiskey Peak. I guess this is also Whiskey Peak based on the so many cactuses and everything. Loketown again. Yeah, Loketown. Oh, and you got the weather, the storm rolling in. Right, it must be Loketown because you got stuff that seems buggy inspired around here. Oh, the execution stand. Damn. This must be so cool if you're watching One Piece for the first time. Because, like, we've been talking about the Grand Line for so long, and now you're seeing stuff. They're doing the. There's no way. They're doing the flower effect for her? They're doing the flower effect? I would not have expected them to keep the flower effect. Because I feel like that's got to be such a pain to do every time. I think they did it well. One more time. Who's Zoro even fighting? Does he? Oh, he fights Whiskey Peak people. No, but this is not the same outfit as what he had. Is this a Whiskey Peak outfit? Let me see. Yeah, this is his Whiskey Peak outfit. Yeah. So it looks like Zoro versus Whiskey Peak people. Oh shit! We got Smoker. Smoker looks badass. What the fuck? Yeah, I think they nailed Smoker. Sanji scene. This is the wax house. Nami and I don't know, Whiskey Peak maybe. Maybe this is in Drum because it's so Christmas themed, like winter. Yeah, Vivi does look very different. I'll say that, but we'll get used to it. We'll get used to it. Oh no, so this was I was dumb. That was Usopp during the buggy stuff. Okay, so this is interesting. So it seems like because this is all Whiskey Peak, right? So it seems like Buggy's crew is going to set up like a whole circus type scenario. Um, it seems like they're going to set up a whole circus scenario um, in Logtown, which I think is pretty cool. Like it's going to be very elaborate. I think that's a bit more. Yeah, maybe that's more dramatic than how they do it in the manga. Like more dramatic is in like more involved. Like there's more build up to it. The Straws probably start getting really suspicious. Like, wait, why is there all of this circus stuff here or something like that? Oh, that's his first move. Oh, that's probably him versus Smoker and it not working, right? Oh, fucking Laboon. This was a great. This was great. This was really good. Okay, so stepping back. Um, that was great. That was great. Okay, so I'm excited. Quick thoughts. I understand now why they would feel comfortable not trying to do Alabasta in this season. I'm realizing now that I think I said this earlier when it was kind of revealed that they're going to be splitting it up. I was suspicious of that they're splitting it up. I was like, that seems like it's dragging it. But now I'm thinking about it. Live action is such a different medium than manga anime. Like when you actually have to do the sets and everything like that. Okay, that's from the creator's side, right? Like the director producer side. From the viewer's side, right? The main thing that season 2 needs to do to maintain momentum from season 1 is like you need to feel like everything is bigger, growing, yada yada. Like you want to feel like it's grander, bigger, right? So much of like in the manga and anime, Reverse Mountain is kind of like a meh storyline, right? Because it's just them going over the mountain, big talking whale or whatever. You kind of move past it, right? Like Laboon's cool or whatever, but like it's not a highlight part of the story. In live action, actually seeing the grandeur of like traveling over a mountain and then a giant whale and everything like that, those things are fundamentally more exciting in a live action format. Um, because like it's very different from when it's just drawings or even just moving pictures and animation. Same thing with like seeing the giant story in Brogy. Little Garden is a slow point in the story, manga and anime wise. Again, like I just watched my girlfriend like when she hit Little Garden, she's now in Alabasta and it's taken a pause for some time, but um, for a while she was like going along pretty consistently. When she hit Little Garden, that was the first like real screeching to a halt type situation because it's just the plot is just not that enticing, and Dory and Brogy are like solid characters, but like there's just some things about Little Garden that feel kind of like slow or whatever. In live action, seeing dinosaurs like Jurassic Park and stuff like that, seeing giants fighting dinosaurs, fighting each other and everything, that's very exciting. So I think that's a piece that I probably underestimated when it comes to season 2, because my thought process was like, if season 2 doesn't get to Alabasta, well then the storylines that it's hitting are Whiskey Peak, which is set up, um, Little Garden, which is set up, Drum Kingdom, which is more like a side story. I was like, that stuff's not as climactic as like us getting to finish out with Arlong Park in the previous season. But Logtown is obviously going to be amazing. And then the actual, I think, whereas Reverse Mountain might be like a more, like, not the most exciting storyline in anime and manga, I think that'll be a very exciting episode when they do it when they do it here in the live action. Whiskey Peak with the fight, like actually seeing a fight with 100 bounty hunters in live action, like John Wick style, that'll be really fucking sick. Um, and then getting to Little Garden, which is our first true like Grand Line esque island, and that it's a fantasy island, and then we've got literal giants and dinosaurs and stuff like that. that stuff feels very exciting. In like, I know I'm saying this a lot, but it just does. Like, there's a reason that Jurassic Park has been like one of the most successful film franchises for God knows how long. It's because just having people face off against like giant monster creatures or whatever like is like a like in live action formats, that's really fucking cool to see. In manga anime, that's stuff that like you see in like kids cartoons, even like it's not a big deal, but like when it's actually put to screen, like seeing the Strats, see dinosaurs, like see giants and everything like that, that's really really fucking sick. So yeah, I think that season 2 actually has a shit like season 2 has a shit ton of really really cool stuff actually. Now that I really think about how it will look on screen, like on screen, it's going to feel very grand, very fantastical, and it'll be building the Baroque Works plotline the whole time. And it'll close out with Chopper stuff, which is obviously like it's not the biggest finale. It's not even as like forget Arlong Park, like forget Alabasta. It's obviously not even as big as Alabasta by a long shot. It's not as big as Arlong Park. It's not even as dramatic of a fight as like Baratier or Syrup Village. Or anything like that, but they could make it more dramatic. I've talked about this in the past, but one of the ways I think they could make it more dramatic is if you just have Wapol actually eat the armory that he hyped up, because the gag was that Wapol was going to eat this armory and become like this death-killing machine. It was that form that he defeated Dalton in the past, but Nami stole the key, so Wapol can't eat his armory, so then Luffy just beats him up. So that was the gag that they did in the manga and the anime, but I imagine if you want a climactic showdown in Drum Kingdom, just have Wapol actually get his power up. And then you got like a nice little fight for Luffy to close things out. And the more important thing is that Chopper is a very dramatic, emotionally powerful storyline. So I think that'll top anything from season 1. Yeah. I under that first look is really fucking exciting. Really, really fucking exciting. I'm very, very excited for that. I'm curious why they didn't show anything from Drum Kingdom, but that might be because I guess that's the last part of the season that they're still working on editing and everything like that. What are the chances we get a giant goldfish? I don't know how you animate that attack. Although they did animate Mihawk's attack that one time. Mihawk's ship cutting attack from a distance. So the goldfish attack would just be like a bigger version of that, I guess. Yeah. I really like that. That was phenomenal. I'm very excited. SMX Wing, thanks for the 2. Man with a burn scar is Aokiji. No, because, like, they even joked about that. So, like, the Blackbeard Pirates were telling about the man with the burn scar, and Aokiji was like, oh, maybe it's me. And then they pointed out a reason for why it's not him. They're like, oh, well, you just got that. Keep it low-key, please. Thanks for the 2. Leaks are out, Morge. I just want to say I'm so sorry. Oh, shit. Leaks are out? Oh, fuck. I just want to say I'm so sorry. Oh, my God. Now, I want to know what the leaks are. What happens in the leaks? What happens? I'm really curious what happens in the leaks. The whole 20 doctors thing was a little silly. This is kind best. Yeah, I'm sure they'll change it a little bit. I think Arlong Park, in retrospect, should have gotten a lot more time. I'm looking forward to Drum Kingdom getting that amount of time. Because now if we think about it, right, so real quick, you know, one thing I was thinking that they were going to do this season that they didn't was, like, I thought that they were going to, like, have Ace or tease Ace a little bit. But I guess not. And I'm curious, like, is Kobe just not returning? Garp just not returning? Because I feel like for live action viewers, they became, like, a staple of the series that they really enjoyed watching. Like, they're viewing them as main characters. So it'd be kind of jarring to just not see them for a full season. It'd be kind of like, you know, if you get into Game of Thrones and then all of a sudden, like, Jon Snow's just not in there for a full season, or Daenerys isn't in there for a full season, or if, you know, like any, like, you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of series. It's just not the norm for live action TV to just cut out a group of characters that you've been following for a long period of time like that. Especially when the way we were introduced to them kind of established them as like the B group, like the Strats are the A group, and then this is the B group we're also following. So, and I'm sure a lot of viewers, their favorite character is like Kobe, maybe even Garp or something like that. So I'm curious how they're gonna manage that, or if they are gonna make some appearances in this season or something. Yeah, that's a big piece of curiosity for me. And like, if Kobe and Garp are gonna come back, is it then gonna be like they're not gonna be the season and they come back? Is that gonna be in like 5 seasons or some shit? Like for Water Seven, maybe season 4. I don't know. Marco Saint, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think ideally season 2 would have covered all the way to the end of Alabasta and had 10 to 12 episodes. But since Netflix won't let them do over 7 to 8 episodes per season, that would have been too few to cover the whole saga. Is it? Oh, it's confirmed that Kobe and Garp will return in season 2, says Leonardo Martins. Ah, nice. Um, Randy Troy's a huge Vivi fan, says Jolly D Joestar. Yeah, Vivi's a good character. I don't think I was ever like a huge Vivi fan. But I liked her and I missed her presence after she was gone. The thing is, like, I really liked Robin right off the bat, even before she got off her backstory stuff. So I was cool with us having Robin. Kobe and Garp will probably interact with Smoker after the Loketown episode. Yeah, that'd be cool. So this is a 7-episode season, right? I might be wrong. One Piece season 2 episode count. Will One Piece live action have 7 episodes in season 2? Yeah, okay. It seems like it'll only have 7 episodes. Again, I hope that people who like got into it through the live action are cool with that, because like I know I just get, it's just not, you just get pissed when you have to wait a long, like unreasonably long time for a show, and then you don't get that much content, and then you have to go back to waiting. So 7 episodes is really not a lot. I think it's already, did it already give the breakdown? So it looks like episode 1 is going to be Loketown. Episode 2, here's what I'm seeing. Here, let me show it to you guys. Let me show you guys what I'm seeing. Gotta do this shit again. Hold on. One second. All right. Yeah, let me show you guys this. So what I'm looking at is this. So we got. Okay, so Loketown is just 1 episode. That'll be a really fucking action-packed episode. I think anybody who's been waiting for One Piece to come back for a long time, to come back and then the first thing is Loketown would be insanely exciting. Like, because it just gets you so high, like, establishes more Gold Roger stuff, introduces, like, Smoker and all of these, like, crazy Logia abilities and everything like that. The atmosphere with the thunder lightning, the Zoro scene, like, one of Zoro's, like, best scenes in the story with the Kitetsu. And then introducing Dragon, like, another really hype character for the future. Just does so much all in 1 episode. I think that'll be a phenomenal episode. Like, Buggy, like, the first boss, like, the first big boss of the previous season, just gets fodderized in this episode. So, like, yeah, I think people will find this really cool. Episode 2, Reverse Mountain. Again, I think that's an episode that, like, maybe not as exciting as Loketown, but with the grandeur of the live action format, I think Reverse Mountain will be a much more exciting. Like, the idea of this being eaten by a giant whale and everything like that, like the story of Noah traveling up and down a mountain, all of that's just, it carries much better in live action format. So I think that's cool. Yeah, I think that'll be a good episode. Okay. And then 1 episode for Whiskey Peak. I think that's great. Like, that's a tight episode for Whiskey Peak. Hugh, like, opens up the whole Baroque Works storyline that had already been teased in season 1, so people will be very excited for it. So, first real big long-running storyline, like, really, really established, and then the huge fight scene between Zoro and, like, the 100 bounty hunters. And then presumably the Mr. 5 fight scene. I wonder if they'll do Zoro versus Luffy. I hope that they somehow find a way to cut Zoro versus Luffy, because like even in anime and manga format, it seemed forced and like silly, and it really just relies on Luffy being like really really dumb. But in the live action, yeah, Luffy's dumb, obviously, but like he's more humanized. Like it's not as absurdly like stupid, like where he literally can't, like he has no brain or anything like that. So I think it would feel like a little bit forced. And I just always feel like it shits on so much of the bonding and development that happens in season one that Luffy immediately would mistrust one of his crewmates or not want to hear him out at the very least. Like, because so many other times in the story when, like, somebody tells Luffy, like, oh, your crewmate did this or that, Luffy would be like, they would never do that, I don't believe it. Yeah, it's just frustrating. Like, the only reason it even moderately works in the anime and manga is because it's like, well, in there, Luffy's so dumb that, like, if somebody gives him food, he immediately thinks they're a good guy, you know? But he also knows Zoro's a good guy. Like, that was their entire development from the first, from the first, like, that was the entire development from the first interaction. So that's a big deal. Then, yeah, that's the one thing I hope they get right with Whiskey Peak. And then 2 episodes for Little Garden and 2 episodes for Drum Kingdom I think are perfect. I think that's just great. Yeah, 2 episodes for both of those. I think, yeah, this all lines up really, really good. I think it'll do it justice. I think that, yeah, the way I viewed it in terms of, like, them trying to force in Alabasta would have just been too much. And I guess they really looked at it and what they wanted to do with the whole thing, and they recognized that as well. Little Garden, I think 2 episodes feels like a lot. I feel like Little Garden feels like a 1 episode type deal to me. But, you know, is what it is, whatever they think. I could see Little Garden feeling stretched across 2 episodes, because they don't, in the manga at least, like, they don't really, like, they step into Little Garden, they, Group A meets one group of giants, Group B meets the other group of giants, then the poisoning situation happens, and then they fight Mr. 3. So there's not, like, a ton of plot to cover there. I'm curious. Definitely curious. Chief says they might just argue and not fight. I would find that worse, because the only good part about that scenario of that misunderstanding was, like, we get like a fan service. It's like a fan fiction type battle. Like, oh, what if Luffy and Zoro fight? What would that look like, right? So, like, how do I say this? I've always felt that the fight itself is cool, and like it's not just. I think people view it as. I think the fight itself is cool. The way Oda set it up was lazy. That was my view of things. Like I'm not saying that it needed like a Luffy versus Usopp level of like storytelling and build up to set up, but the setup was just very lazy, and it shits on how much Luffy is supposed to trust his crewmates at this point in time, and it just shits on the fact that like the whole idea of Luffy and Zoro first meeting is that the entire world views Zoro as a bad guy. Like, they view Zoro as having, like, this really bad, evil reputation. But Luffy sees right through that, and he's like, no, I can tell you're a good guy. Like, that's the whole point. Like, Luffy's able to see past the reputation and what other people say about Zoro and see that Zoro's a good guy. That's the whole point. But if Luffy immediately doubts Zoro and he's like, I knew you, like, or it totally fits in character that you would kill these innocent people or whatever, that just shits on that a lot. The fight itself is solid. Like, it's a very brief interaction, so it doesn't go too far, but it actually is, how do I say this? It's low-key a good fight to have had at some point in the story, because Zoro is the other, like, it goes to Zoro's character. Zoro is the other Conqueror's Haki user in the crew. It is regularly pointed out that, like, Zoro doesn't seem like the type of character that would be the follower or the subordinate to somebody else, right? Even when fucking Baroque Works offered Zoro the job, he was like, oh, yeah, I'll join if you make me the boss, right? That's an intrinsic part of Zoro's character. He's a Conqueror's Haki user. He doesn't just follow other people. He is basically, like, the Luffy-Zoro whole dynamic, like, them both being in the crew, it is essentially established to be a dynamic where it's like, there's two characters who are quote unquote alpha type characters, but one chooses um, to follow the other, and that's part of what makes their relationship and their dynamic so cool and unique, right? But Zoro still is that dude inside, and that's why just having a scene where like he and Luffy are open to challenging each other and actually like wanting to basically be like, you know what, let's just actually just straight up settle this. Let's find out who's stronger between the two of us. Like that's basically the usual dynamic that they have where like, you know, Luffy is a alpha king type character and Zoro is also an alpha king type character, right? But Zoro's choosing to take a back seat. That's a cool scene to have early on in the story because it like puts what the dynamic, like it puts the natural undercurrent of the dynamic onto the table where it's just like, well, uh like at the end of the day, these two characters are basically both alpha type characters. They are ultimately like, it feels natural that at one point or another they do just want to butt heads and find out like who's stronger between the two of them. Like that's just the natural undercurrent. Just because they've resigned themselves to a certain dynamic that works for both of them or whatever. At the end of the day, with the certain triggers or whatever, they're both itching to pit themselves against each other because that's naturally who they both are, right? So I think it's actually good that fight happened. I think it's good that it happened earlier in the story because, you know, obviously much later in the story, then it turns into a whole power scaling thing or something, and many would argue that Zoro wouldn't be able to do that against Luffy today, etc., and that would probably be, until Zoro figures out his Conqueror's Haki, that's probably valid. But like, you know, there's various points in the story that you could argue how close is Zoro to Luffy, yada yada. Like I would argue on the rooftop before chapter 1010, they're like even. Doing it that early in the story is good because it avoids power scaling issues and stuff like that later. But it goes to the scene does actually go to both their characters, and it does actually like it's almost, I view it as almost something that feels very fitting and from everything that we know about who the two characters are and like the dynamic that they've essentially landed on for the rest of the story. It feels like a very natural and organic sort of fight to happen at least once in the story because, again, two Conqueror's Haki users. But it's just the reason for having it happen just feels so lame and silly. I almost wish that Oda would rather have just like written at some point, like just over something very minor, where they're not like where Luffy doesn't doubt Zoro's character, but rather they're just looking for an excuse to actually like try and find out who's stronger, because that's what they say in the fight. Like, this is a good chance to find out who's stronger. Like, my swordsmanship fighting, or like your Gomu combat or whatever, right? And they're like, yeah, let's settle this once and for all. Basically implying that like they both want to prove the answer. So I think that's a good aspect to keep of the Luffy Zoro dynamic. I think just finding a better reason. I think it'd be cool if the live action was able to find a better reason. Keep it low-key, please. Thanks for the 2. Always took that fight as Luffy being drunk/tired. I mean, I think that the fight feels so out of character that readers have to headcanon a lot of reasons. I don't think that Oda was implying that Luffy is just doing this because he's drunk/tired. I don't think it was just like, oh, this is drunk Luffy. I think it wasn't really played up that he's very drunk and that's why it's happening. Viran says maybe if Luffy gets drunk, it could work. Yeah, that's like a, what do you call? That's a good angle for it. I think that could work really well. Snake5 says Morge Alpha Male Podcast. I don't even like saying, like talking about that stuff because it feels like, I know it's adjacent to a certain brand of podcasts. That's not the, but that's essentially what Conqueror's Haki, like literally the disposition of kings, Conqueror's Haki, that's a thing in One Piece. Like that's literally a thing. And like the One Piece world, like the Straw Hats are not your traditional group of friends in that like the One Piece world is a world of pirates where there's like hierarchies, like captain and then subordinates, captain and then followers. Like One Piece is very much a world about hierarchy, and like Conqueror's Haki is like who's the king of kings, who's like the big boss of the big bosses, etc. Like that's why like just the two Conqueror's Haki users being on the same crew eventually naturally clashing, especially because it's like a key part of Zoro's character that's repeated over and over. Like, why isn't that guy the captain? Zoro himself says he would only join any other crew if he's going to be the boss himself. Other people are like, that guy doesn't seem like somebody who follows orders. Zoro's talked about how he'll leave the crew if he doesn't respect Luffy. Like it's a running trend for Zoro's character. It's consistent with his character. It fits that at some point or the other, like he and Luffy just like you can't have two kings like sitting around that long without like something or the other wanting to clash and just test or whatever. But just find a better option, you know. Anyway, all right. Marco Saint says someone in Whiskey Peak asks who would win a fight between them, and they consider it for a second, or they arm wrestle or something. Just a quick callback, no actual fight. Yeah, honestly, it would feel almost better if it's like they just organically want to find out who's stronger, rather than making it like Luffy now thinks Zoro is evil or something like that. What is it? One Piece opening. What would it be? 28. Yeah, that just came out, so it looks like that's what it is. Oh, whoops. Hold on. Okay. Desktop audio's off. Yeah. I'm going to turn down the opacity again, though. All right, let's watch this. I think I've seen little clips of it. Hold on. Oh, very actiony. I like that. Oh, that's cool. Hold on. Wait, was that Sanji kicking Kizaru's laser? Yeah, that's cool. Oh, this is everybody listening to the thing. The speech. Whoa. The Gorse transforming. Okay, so it's mainly just showing Saturn so far. Oh, it's showing Venus Jura versus the Giants. Oh, this is cool. This is very much focusing on like how big the world of One Piece is and all the side characters that Egghead really focuses on. Vivi, Shanks, Cross Guild, Figarland Garling. I forgot. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to cut away to too many side characters. No, we will during the Vegapunk speech. Forgot about that. One thing I think is random is like the Roger Whitebeard Odin parallel to the Luffy Ace Sabo group. That feels really random to me because I just don't see like it just doesn't feel like parallels to me really. Like Sabo and Odin doesn't feel very similar at all. Sabo and Whitebeard, Ace of Whitebeard, I don't know. I guess the parallel is just that Luffy had. I don't know. Ooh, this is cool. Nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that opening. It was good. I agree with somebody who said earlier that the song isn't that strong with this one. The song's not that strong, um, but yeah, it's a good feel good opening. Um, I think it gets me hyped for the rest of the Egghead anime. James the Max, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 3 months. Their clash could start fleshing out Zoro's standards for his captain. Zoro could get pissed at Luffy for getting caught off guard, especially now that they're in the infamous part of the Grand Line. If they really want to start setting the seeds for stuff like that, but that's something that's really only going to matter in Water 7 and East Lobby. I mean, Luffy gets a bit of captain leadership coaching from Vivi during the Baroque Works saga. So it could be an angle that they go with, but I think that it's important that they don't. It's important that they don't play that out too much because you don't want to keep doing the same sort of character writing conflict over and over. So, like, you don't want to focus too much on like, oh, is Luffy a good captain? Is he doing a good job as a captain? Is he like capable of handling the responsibility of this role, etc. You don't want to do that too much until the Water 7 and East Lobby storyline, because that becomes his primary character conflict there. I'll say one thing, which is pure speculation. Pure speculation. I don't know the angles that they want to go with this. But based on the trailer, right? It opens with Luffy talking about, like, the one thing that I care the most about over anything else is, like, getting the One Piece, right? I wonder if because Luffy's conflict with Crocodile becomes about two things. Like, first, it's like their ideological conflict is a lot about, like, the value of having friends, trusting others. That's, like, its own thing. But then the other thing that really comes into play with the Luffy Crocodile conflict that's really cool is that Crocodile is Luffy's first real test for if he has what it takes to become, like, to make it in the Grand Line and become a Pirate King. So, like, Crocodile's basically shitting on him as, like, you're just a rookie. I've killed countless rookies like you before out here in the Grand Line. And then Luffy keeps coming back, like, over and over. And, like, his final words to him are about, like, how he's going to surpass him and become the Pirate King, while Crocodile keeps trying to tell him that, like, no, the level of the seas, it's too high. You're going to forget about your dreams the way that it's implied Crocodile forgot about his dreams and everything. So I think that's something that might be Luffy's main sort of maybe that's the angle that they'll go with between season 2 and 3, which is like, is Luffy actually ready for the Grand Line? Like, can he handle the level that everything now has reached? Maybe that's something that they go with. I don't know. I don't know what. K-Maya says it's the parallel of the other two hearing Luffy and Roger's true dream. Yeah, I know that. Like, it's the same exact scene. Like, I'm going to be... Or Roger revealing something, then the reaction faces and stuff. But to me, it just felt random because it's like... Well, Whitebeard and Odin just seem like Roger just met Odin too. I get that it's a parallel scene, but it also felt like the trio, like the fact that Roger's telling it to two other people at the same time, that it's a little trio of characters, it felt like that's supposed to be a parallel as well. And I was like, that feels random. I don't know. Jolly D. Joestar says, but Luffy already lost in season 1. That's true. I mean, maybe this can be more dramatic, more so in the context of like whether or not he has what it takes to become Pirate King. But they did make Luffy a lot more vulnerable already. So maybe it doesn't... I don't know. We'll see the route that they take. We'll see. The two openings before this one are better. Yeah, I think I don't remember the previous song. The previous song was not as memorable for me. The song before that was really, really memorable. And then the previous two openings were, I think, better animated than this one. But this one was really well animated. Like, it's hype. It's really cool animation for sure. Yeah, I know the people aren't parallel. It's just the way that it happened, but that's why it feels random to me, because it's like it feels like it's a semi attempt at a people parallel, because it's like Roger with these two other guys, I don't know, that we know he does eventually become really close with. I don't know. Do I think we'll see Kuma or Ivankov with Dragon at Loketown? I don't think so. All right, everybody. You can see Krieg and Jin in the opening. Oh, that's funny. I'm really excited. I'm very excited with the One Piece live action. I'm really, really excited. And because I know that you guys are excited about things as well, because I see how excited you guys have shown yourselves to be. One second. One second. Yeah, I know how much you guys, like how excited you guys are coming out of this. So, um, just a reminder for the next 2 weeks, we are collaborating with Gomu Drop. We're selling these shirts for a limited time only, and they come in a variety of colors. We've also got stickers if you want to put it on your laptop, your desk, whatever you may like. But we've got all of Luffy's gears in a variety of colors. I'm obviously sporting the orange/red color at the moment. But yeah, definitely head over. The link is pinned at the top right now. And if you want to check out the stickers, we got stickers as well of all of these things. We've got stickers of each of Luffy's gears, Luffy sleeping like this. Yeah, we got everything. And even a little Nika face with the Gomu text. So definitely check this stuff out. The link is pinned at the top. And yeah, again, this is limited time only. We're collaborating with them for this drop during that period of time. So that's when they're going to be putting them in production. And yeah, everybody. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm sincerely very excited for season 2. I think that season 2 is going to really show people how big and how grand and fantastical the world of One Piece is. And I think that's just something that we're probably going to get to appreciate again, like with fresh eyes as viewers, because like I've said it so many times, like in anime and manga, right? Like the worlds that are drawn, we end up taking for granted to a certain degree because it's ultimately their drawings, right? So like the things that stand out more are like hype fights, hype things like that, right? But in live action, just simple things like having a really cool background set or something like Whiskey Peak, or climbing a mountain and stuff like that, like Reverse Mountain. Those aren't just like little drawings doing it or whatever. It feels very like it feels real, right? Little Garden is going to feel really, really grand and epic. Like it will feel cool, like the same way as just like anytime a giant even just showed up in Game of Thrones, or like a dragon would show up in Game of Thrones, that felt very cool and impactful just because it carries more weight. Like you see a drawing of a dragon in manga and anime and it's just like those are dime a dozen, but those things carry weight when you have real people in real sets like facing them. So I feel like the live action could be a reminder to us just like of how crazy, fantastical, and epic the just physical world of One Piece is. Even if you remove all the fights and all of the things like that, like just what a really cool like world to explore it is, you know? So I think that's interesting. Yeah, I think that'll just be a really, really fresh way to traverse the One Piece world, like through this medium instead. So yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, really looking forward to the One Piece live action. Yeah. With that, I will talk to you all later.